Chapter 23. The sixth Masque. The French Quarter burned with Mardi Gras penultimate night, its streets a fevered dance of torchlit floats and masked revelers. Near Jackson Square, where the St. Louis Cathedral's spires pierced the star-strewn sky, the air crackled with the scent of gunpowder from firecrackers and the sweet tang of pralines hawked by vendors. The crew of Bacchus Parade roared past, its papier-mâché satyr tossing beads to a screaming crowd, their shouts drowning out the cathedral's solemn bells. Julien Dubois stood in a cordoned-off alley beside the cathedral, his fedora low, his scar a sharp ache in the humid night. Celeste's article exposing the Order of the Crescent Moon had set the city ablaze, and now, a new call from Officer Malone confirmed the killer's response: another body. Malone met him at the alley's mouth, his face slick with sweat, his voice tight. "Found him 20 minutes ago, Dubois. It's the same damn nightmare." Julien's boots crunched on broken beads as he approached the body, slumped against the cathedral's stone wall, half hidden by a cluster of banana palms. The victim was Dr. Louis Martineau, a renowned physician whose charity hospital served the elite, his gray hair stark against a blood-soaked shirt. A single stab wound pierced his chest, precise as always. The grotesque papier-mâché mask, red and gold, leering, with a crescent moon etched on its forehead, clung to his face, its leather straps knotted tightly. Julien's stomach churned. 6 victims, all pillars of the order, all sacrificed to a ritual Madame Zora had called a corruption of voodoo. "Dr. Martineau," Julien muttered, crouching beside the corpse. Another one of Devereaux's circle. His gloved fingers traced the mask's edge. The crescent moon a mocking echo of Clara's diary and the Magnolia's end altar. The parade's chaos, Bacchus floats passing an hour ago, had given the killer cover, just as Julien's parade schedule theory predicted. Malone shifted, glancing at the crowd beyond the cordon. No witnesses as usual. Place was a madhouse when the parade hit. "You think this ties to that reporter's article?" She stirred up a hornet's nest. Julien's jaw tightened, thinking of Celeste's bold move and the threatening note she'd mentioned in a hurried phone call. "It's no coincidence," he said, his voice grim. "The order's hitting back fast." He tilted the mask slightly, noticing a faint bulge beneath the inner lining. With a careful tug, he peeled back the papier-mâché, revealing a folded scrap of paper tucked inside. His pulse quickened as he unfolded it, the script elegant but chilling. "The final crescent rises on Fat Tuesday's night. The sanctuary awaits." Julien's scar burned, the message a beacon to the ritual's endgame. Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras last night, was tomorrow. The sanctuary was Magnolia's end, where he and Celeste had found the order's altar. The killer, or Devereaux, was taunting him, daring him to stop the final sacrifice Clara's diary had warned of. "They're planning the ritual's climax," Julien said, pocketing the note. "Tomorrow night at the plantation. We've got one day to end this." Malone's eyes widened. "You're gonna need an army, Dubois. The order's got eyes everywhere, and after that article, they're spooked." Julien stood, lighting a cigarette, the match flaring against the cathedral's shadow. "No army, just answers. Get the coroner, and pull the Bacchus parade logs, anyone with a crescent moon, anyone out of place. The killer's hiding in the parades, but they're slipping." His gaze drifted to the crowd, where Celeste's auburn hair flashed, her notebook out, her eyes locked on the crime scene. She was a magnet for trouble, and Julien knew she'd be at his side for the final push, whether he liked it or not. As the cathedral bells tolled, the parade's drums pounded, a rhythm that matched the killer's countdown. Julien crushed his cigarette, the crescent moon above a silent judge. The order's ritual was racing toward its bloody end, and Julien had one night to stop it, or become its next mask. Chapter 24. The past resurfaces. The French Quarter lay hushed in the pre-dawn stillness, its Mardi Gras revelry exhausted as Fat Tuesday loomed. In a cramped apartment above a Chartres Street bakery, the air was heavy with the scent of rising dough and the faint tang of Julien Dubois's cigarette smoke. He slumped in a worn armchair, his fedora tossed on a table, his scar stark under the flicker of a single lamp. The sixth murder, Dr. Louis Martineau, masked near St. Louis Cathedral, had tightened the order of the crescent moon's noose, the killer's message pointing to a final ritual at Magnolia's end tonight. Sleep eluded Julien, his mind a storm of Clara's death, Celeste's article, and the ghosts of his past. He drifted into a fitful doze, and the dream came, as it always did. Amélie, his sister, stood in a misty bayou, her dark hair loose, her Creole features alight with the fire he'd loved. She was 20 when she died a decade ago, her body found at Magnolia's end, strangled, with no suspects, no justice. In the dream, she wore a crescent moon pendant, its silver glinting against her throat. "Find me, Julian," she whispered, her voice a melody over the bayou's hum. "The moon knows." The pendant pulsed, and the mist turned to blood, swallowing her as Julian reached out, his scar burning. He jolted awake, his breath ragged, the lamp's glow harsh. The dream was memory twisted by grief, but the crescent moon pendant was real. He'd held it in evidence, its delicate chain a weight he couldn't shake. Amelie had been a seamstress, vibrant but curious, drawn to the quarter's mysteries. She'd mentioned a club before her death, secretive, elite, but Julian, young and brash, had dismissed it. Now, with the order's ritual unmasked, blood sacrifices under the crescent moon, he wondered. Was Amelie's death their work, a prelude to the killings now tearing through the city? Julian lit a cigarette, the match flaring in the dim room. The pendant, stored in a precinct lockbox, was a clue he'd buried, too raw to face. But Clara's diary, Madame Zora's warnings, and the Magnolia's End altar tied the order to that cursed plantation, where Amelie's body had been found. The victims, Levine, Thibodeau, Leclerc, Clara, Dupont, Martineau, were all elite order members, sacrificed for power. Amelie wasn't elite, but her pendant, her curiosity. Could she have crossed the order's path? A sacrifice before the ritual's current wave? He stood, pacing, his boots creaking on the floorboards. The message in Martineau's Masque, "The final crescent rises on Fat Tuesday's night," set a deadline. Tonight at Magnolia's End. If the order had killed Amelie, their ritual spanned a decade, its roots deeper than Julian had feared. Vincent Devereaux, the order's leader, was the key, his shipping empire and masked balls a web snaring the victims. Julian's scar itched, his resolve hardening. For Amelie, for Clara, he'd tear the order apart, even if it meant facing his own failures. A knock at the door startled him. Celeste, he guessed, her relentless pursuit matching his own. He crushed the cigarette, the dream's weight lingering. Amelie's pendant was a thread to the past, and Magnolia's End was the crucible where past and present would collide. As the quarter's jazz stirred awake, Julian vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost, before the crescent moon claimed its final sacrifice. Chapter 25. Devereaux's charm. The French Quarter shimmered under the golden haze of Mardi Gras final day, Fat Tuesday, its streets a whirlwind of sequined costumes and parade floats crowned with papier-mâché gods. On Esplanade Avenue, Vincent Devereaux's mansion loomed, a Creole palace of white columns and iron-lace balconies, its gardens fragrant with magnolias. Celeste Moreau approached the wrought-iron gate, her cloche hat shielding her eyes, her notebook a shield against the danger she courted. Her article exposing the Order of the Crescent Moon had drawn the killer's wrath, a threatening note with a crescent moon, but it had also forced Devereaux to grant her an interview, his public persona too polished to refuse. The amulet at her throat, heavy with Madame Zora's herbs, pulsed with her resolve. A butler led her to a sunlit parlor, its walls adorned with oil paintings and gilded mirrors, a phonograph spinning a soft jazz tune. Devereaux stood by a window, his tall frame elegant in a tailored suit, his dark hair slicked back, his blue eyes sharp behind a disarming smile. At 40, he was New Orleans' golden sun, his shipping empire a veil for darker dealings. Celeste's article had named him a figure of interest, tied to the 6 crescent moon murders, and she was here to crack his facade. "Miss Moreau," Devereaux said, his Creole lilt smooth as velvet, gesturing to a velvet chair. "Your pen has stirred quite the storm. To what do I owe this visit?" His smile was a blade, charming but lethal, and Celeste felt the weight of his gaze, assessing, calculating. She sat, her voice crisp, her notebook open. "The truth, Mr. Devereaux. 6 dead, Levine, Thibodeau, Leclerc, Clara Beaumont, Dupont, Martineau, all tied to your balls, your business. My readers want to know, what's the Order of the Crescent Moon, and why are its members dying under crescent moon masks?" Devereaux's laugh was warm, practiced, as he poured 2 glasses of absinthe from a crystal decanter. "You're as bold as your headlines, Miss Moreau. The Order? A fanciful rumor, nothing more. My balls are social affairs, my business merely ships and cargo. These murders, tragic, but I'm no puppeteer. Surely you don't believe every whisper about rituals and secret societies." Celeste sipped the absinthe, its licorice bite grounding her. "Whispers add up. Clara Beaumont was at your LeBlanc ball, scared, whispering about a ritual. Your ships move more than sugar, liquor, maybe blood money. And Magnolia's End, a sanctuary. Ring any bells?" Devereaux's smile didn't waver, but his fingers tightened on his glass, a flicker of tension in his eyes. "Clara," he said, his voice softer, almost wistful. "A lovely woman but troubled. She spoke of betraying the moon, fearing shadows in her own mind. I tried to help, but... Well, you know her fate. He leaned closer, his charm a velvet trap. Magnolia's End is a ruin, Miss Moreau, not a sanctuary. You're chasing ghosts, and ghosts can be dangerous. Celeste's pulse quickened. Betraying the moon, Clara's fear, tied to the Order's ritual, and Devereaux knew it. His slip was subtle, but it betrayed knowledge he shouldn't have, unless he was at the ritual's heart. She pressed, her voice steady. Ghosts or not, 6 bodies say someone's very real. If not you, who's pulling the strings? Devereaux stood, his smile cooling, his shadow falling over her. You're a clever woman, Miss Moreau, but cleverness has a price. Write what you will, but tread carefully. Mardi Gras hides many masks. He escorted her to the door, his hand grazing her arm, a gesture both gallant and threatening. As Celeste stepped into the garden, a parade's trumpet wailed, its notes sharp against the mansion's silence. Devereaux's charm was a mask, his mention of Clara's fear a crack in his armor. Her notebook burned with the revelation, but the threatening note's words, "Speak again, and you'll wear its mask," echoed in her mind. The Order's ritual was set for tonight at Magnolia's End, and Devereaux was no bystander. Celeste clutched her amulet, her suspicion now a certainty. He was the key, and she'd risk everything to prove it.